Wonderful.
Thank you.
So, as you all know, this is a painting, a picture of Yamuna Mataji. She also lived a life of bhakti. And I think the name of her book is Living a Life of Unalloyed Devotion, Unalloyed Bhakti. And so we have so many modern day examples of great devotees of the Lord who dedicated their life for the Lord's service. And today we want to think about what made them so special. Why is it that these individuals became so advanced in spiritual life? They were not living in forests. They were not great sages before they became a devotee. They did not have any exemplary education. They did not come from very aristocratic or very Brahminical families. So what was it about them that made them into such great devotees? Or as you would say, bhakti yogis. So when looking into this question of, or this topic of living a life of bhakti, we should first look at this word bhakti. What does bhakti mean? So bhakti, the Sanskrit of bhakti means love or devotion. Bhakti means love. And Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas translate the word bhakti as devotional service. Devotional service. And so we'll look into why is it that Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas translate it as devotional service. By first looking at this question, that what is love? What is bhakti? We say how a devotee loves everyone, right? A devotee is someone who loves everyone. A devotee has no enemy. Just like it said that Maharaj Yudhishthira did not have any enemy. The Kauravas really tried to make enmity with him. But he was a friend to all living beings. And that's why it was so difficult for him to fight with them. Because he was a friend to them, yet they kept on trying to kill him and hurt him, even until the last moment. After Duryodhana and the Kauravas had mistreated his wife and the 5 brothers and tried to destroy her in the assembly. Even after that, when they were in the forest, and Duryodhana was personally came there to taunt the Pandavas. When Duryodhana was in trouble, the 4 brothers, Yudhishthira sent his 4 brothers to go and help them, to show that he was a friend to him. He did not have enmity towards him, and hoping that his heart would turn around. So we say, and this is a fact, that a devotee loves everyone. So then the question is, what is love? First and foremost, the devotee loves Krishna, and Krishna loves his devotees. So what is that love? So I'd like to take a few suggestions from the audience. You can unmute yourself and maybe make a suggestion as to what do you think is the meaning of this vital term. And most of us are householders. So I'm sure that our spouses are asking us this question almost every day or every other day. Do you love me? Do you love me? So we must have thought of this question. What does it mean to love someone? What is love?
Care for someone.
Say that again. I think I heard to care for someone. To care for someone. Very nice. To care for someone. That is love.
Love in the material world, which is generally lust, is actually serving someone is love, in my opinion. When you serve someone,
very nice,
unconditionally,
so
it's pure love.
So very good point that love is not lip service, right? Love may start with lip service, but it's not actually lip service, right? Actual love is beyond lip service. It has to turn into action. It has to be activity. We have to do something for our beloved. We cannot just tell people, I love you, I love you, I love you, and then never do anything for them. So activity, action, like you're saying, very nice. Other suggestions?
Spontaneous, Prabhuji.
Love is something that is spontaneous, very interesting, okay?
Serving the interest of the opposite person instead of your own interest.
Serving the interest of the opposite person rather than your own interest. This is very interesting because someone may say that I also serve my business, my manager I serve my employer, I serve my boss. But even though I act for them and I care for them and I serve them, but still it's not love. Because if they don't give me the paycheck, I don't get love. So real love, you're saying, is actually serving someone else's self-interest rather than one's own. Very nice point.
Unconditional.
Unconditional. So love is unconditional. There's no conditions attached to it.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah, go ahead. Please go ahead.
I would just, in addition to all that has already been said, I would add that Bhakti has the additional feature of being expressed by the potency of Krishna's internal potency, that no other love can claim that.
So it is expressed by the Lord's internal potency. Yes.
If it's Bhakti has that unique feature, I would say.
Yes. So Bhakti, because it is pure love and it is not lust, Bhakti is an expression of the Lord's internal potency. It is the Lord's heart. And that's why Krishna gives Bhakti only very carefully. And Krishna gives Bhakti very rarely because he knows he's giving his heart. So there's actually one story in this regard, one example that there's a monkey that was floating, that needed to go across the river. And monkeys don't have boats, nor do boatmen take monkeys across the river. So he really needed to get out across the river. And so he comes to the bank of the river, and there's a crocodile. Who else is he going to use help of than the crocodile? So he asks the crocodile and he says, "Will you take me across the river?" The crocodile says, "Sure, I'll take you across the river." "Oh, it's a great idea." He says, "Oh, thank you so much." And so he gets right onto the back of the crocodile, and the crocodile swims over with the monkey on the back effortlessly, no problem. And then halfway through, the crocodile stops. And he says, "Ha ha ha, now that you're in the middle of this river, I'm going to eat you up." And so then the monkey says, "Oh, crocodile, that's no problem. I'm so happy that you're going to eat me, actually. I don't mind at all. But the only problem is that I left my heart up in the tree. And as you know, the heart is the sweetest part of a monkey's body. And so therefore, let me go and get the heart, and then you can eat me. I'll come back down and then you can eat me." So the crocodile, being the fool that it is, they say actually an alligator or crocodile, they just have the brain of like a mustard, of a pea, like a pea. So thank God their brain is so small. Otherwise, they'd eat a lot more people. So the crocodile believes the monkey, and he swims back to the tree. And there the monkey gets off and runs up the tree and is up there in safety. So the crocodile is quite, you could say, disappointed. So, but the point being that the key is that we should not give our heart to an unknown person. We should first know the person before giving the heart to someone. And the monkey knew this principle, and that's why the monkey didn't get hurt in the process. The monkey said, "My heart is up there," so therefore, his heart was somewhere else. So in the same way, Krishna will give everything. Will give everything to a person who's worshiping them. Bhakti, mukti, siddhi, material happiness, even liberation, mystical powers. Bhakti, mukti, siddhi, sakale ashad. Right? He'll give everything to the materialist or to the devotee who is not fully purified, except for his own bhakti, his own devotion. That he will give only to one who is very, very sincere. who is very earnest in reaching the Lord. And that's because, like you said, this is internal to the Lord. It's within, it's his own heart. Once he's given his heart to someone, he can't take it back. So one has to be very, very dear to the Lord for that. So yes, it is internal to the Lord. Any other definitions of what love is? Any other suggestions? What is love? How do you define love?
Prabhuji, compassion and what is one more I thought of? Compassion, and I'll come back to you on the next one. I forgot the other one, but compassion is one of them I thought.
Compassion, it's a very nice definition of love. Love means compassion. Very good. Someone else was saying something?
It's eternal.
It's eternal. Love is eternal. Wow, that is a very, not one that we think of normally, but actually true love is eternal. Yes. This is why Krishna actually loves us, because our friends and our relatives in this world, they love us during the course of a lifetime, if that. But even if they're really true friends, they'll love us for our entire life. But once we die, they forget about us and we forget about them and we move on, they move on. But the Lord is such that the living entity will go through millions of lives, but Krishna will stay by their side. Suhridam sarva bhutana. The Lord is present within the heart of every living being since time immemorial. And we've forgotten that friend, Krishna, who loves us unconditionally. So actually, if it is true love, it is eternal. And the devotee's love for Krishna is also eternal. That's why Krishna says in the Gita, we were actually just reading this, Neha vikramanashu asti pratyavayo navidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahatmya. Krishna says in the Gita that when we love him, that love is never lost. Because in our next life, whichever life we are, that love, Krishna will stay. So real love is also eternal. Very nice.
Would it be right to say love is sacrifice?
Love is sacrifice, yes. So compassion, sacrifice, selfless. Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say love is unconditional.
Love is unconditional. Yes, unconditional, unalloyed.
Love is knowing the desire of the beloved.
Love is fulfilling the desire of the beloved. I really like that definition. Very nice.
Also, like, love is wishing well for the other person.
Love is wishing well. So you have your good wishes, good intentions for that person.
Would you love to
Hare
sprout
Krishna.
love? Sorry.
No problem. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. As per my understanding, love is, total surrender and 100% trust.
Yes, that's the principles of Sharanagati. How does the Sanskrit go? I'm forgetting. Rakshashyasi. That the 100% trust. I really like that. 100% trust. If you actually love someone, you 100% trust them. And in the material world, we can't do that. Because when we 100% trust someone, then they'll take advantage of us. And so therefore, the only person we can do that with is Krishna and his pure devotees. And therefore, by definition, love can actually only be exchanged with Krishna or his pure devotees, because we can't 100% trust anyone else. This point actually is so nice, actually, that when Indra had thrown all the massive clouds and lightning and everything on the coward boys, then at that point, all the coward boys and all the residents of Vrindavan had followed Krishna's instructions and had displeased Indra. So it's because of Krishna that they were in that mess, so to say. But when that happens, then they all go to Krishna, praising him. Oh Krishna, beloved of all, please save us. Not once do they ever curse Krishna or say, look, what happened now? They have 100% trust. Even though Krishna put them into difficulty, they have 100% trust in Krishna. And that's full surrender. That's also they're fully surrendered to Krishna. Very nice point. Prabhuji, you had a point.
Prabhuji love to sprout from the core of the heart.
From the core of the heart. So it's not from the mind, it's not from the brain, it's not a calculation, but it flows from the heart. Very nice. Okay.
Prabhuji,
yeah, go ahead.
I just want one more that just came into my mind that I forgot to mention is gratitude.
Gratitude. To be very grateful. That is also love.
It's also not mechanical and like Radharani, my mom was saying this, Radharani resembles love in all condition with Krishna. Or Krishna.
Very nice. Thank you. Well, such nice definitions. Actually, the definitions that, that's the thing. In conversation with devotees, the meanings that come out are so deep. And so many aspects of love today you've emphasized, which I didn't think about. And we don't read, but as Krishna says, in conversation, they come out amongst the devotees when they converse about him. So, Srila Jiva Goswami has answered this question for us. And Jiva Goswami is very, very, you could say, particular, scientific in the way that he approaches things. So he's given a very precise definition of what love is. A few of you mentioned that love is unconditional, that it has no condition, it is unalloyed. And so someone might ask the question, well, if it is so unconditional, if it is so selfless, as many of you mentioned, and if it is full surrender, then why would anyone do it? If there's no motivation, it's also no motivation. Right? There's no motivation, there's no condition, there's no nothing. Why would we engage in a loving relationship? So he answers that question for us. So in the Priti Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami says, he defines love as follows. Love is sukha, a special kind of knowledge or state of mind, characterized by joy or happiness. So, very interesting point here. His very first point is so eye-opening. Many times we say that if we love Krishna, we don't even love him for the happiness that we derive from it. Like the gopis of Vrindavan, they tell Krishna that one time Krishna had a headache. And because Krishna had a headache, everyone in Vrindavan was very concerned. In Dwarka, actually, everyone in Dwarka was very concerned, why does Krishna have a headache and how can we solve his headache? So Narad Muni was there at that time. And Krishna tells Narad Muni that the only way my headache can be solved is if I can get the dust from the feet of my devotee. If I can get that wonderful, powerful dust, then my headache will go away. So Narad Muni then travels all around the universe. He goes to very purified brahmanas. He asks them, can you please give me the dust of their feet? They asked him, why? Why do you want our dust? And he says, Krishna wants to put it on his forehead. When he says that, then they say, Naradji, please go to the next door. We don't want to go to hell, because if we give Krishna the dust of our feet, we will go to hell. Imagine taking the dust of your feet and putting it on the forehead of a deity, of the deity in the temple. How can you think of doing that? So they would not give their dust. So finally, Narad Muni goes to the gopis of Vrindavan. And there, when he goes to the gopis, he asks them, can I please get the dust from your feet? And they ask Narad Muni the same question. They say, why do you want our dust? And he says that Krishna wants it. He has a headache, and with the dust from your feet, his headache will go away. And so immediately, the gopis start to roll in the ground to create as much dust as they can. And then with that dust, they give it to Narad Muni in large quantities from their feet. And they pack it nicely, and they give it to Narad Muni, and they say, please go and give this to Lord Krishna, put on his forehead. At that point, Narad Muni asks the gopis, he says, aren't you afraid with this dust? I mean, if you put your foot dust on Krishna's head, you'll go to hell. And the gopis respond to him. They say, yes, we know that we'll go to hell. But if that gives Krishna pleasure, if that gives Krishna even one drop of pleasure, then we are happy to go to hell for millions of lifetimes. Our stay in hell for millions of lifetimes is worth one moment of Krishna's happiness. Why? Because that is our happiness. So it's said that the devotee of the Lord does not serve the Lord for happiness. Because if you serve God for happiness, that means it's conditional. Right? That means there's a purpose in your mind that you want to be happy, you want to be really joyful. That's why you're serving Him. But then people would ask that, well, then why would you then serve Krishna? If serving Krishna, let's say you do devotional service and it makes you really miserable and it's as bad as mature life is, and it's completely painful and frustrating and hellish, then who would serve the Lord? So on one hand, we don't serve the Lord for happiness, but on the other hand, it is because of the happiness that's derived in bhakti that bhakti is so special, and that we are inspired and encouraged to perform devotional service. So Srila Jiva Goswami here solves that contradiction for us, and he does so in such a genius way, because Jiva Goswami, like Rupa Goswami, is a genius. He says, yes, actually the very definition of love is happiness. Can you imagine? The definition of love is happiness. If you have pure love, then the first characteristic will be sukha, a special kind of knowledge or state of mind characterized by joy or happiness. Therefore, Krishna also says in the Gita, susukham kartam abhyam, that bhakti means by definition that which is joyfully performed. So love means happiness. But, and here's the key thing, that happiness is not the happiness due to one's own sense pleasure, but that happiness is the happiness felt due to the pleasure of the beloved. So bhakti cannot be without joy. In fact, it's the highest joy. But that joy is due to Krishna's joy, not due to our own joy. And therefore, it is both selfless and also the highest state of happiness. So if we're feeling sad, if we're not feeling joyful while we do our devotional service, if we feel angry while we do our devotional service, if we feel depressed while we do our devotional service, then that is not pure devotion. By the effect, we can understand that. That is not pure love. Because if it is pure love, then we will be filled with happiness. Not because we are gaining something from it, or we became powerful or strong or rich or happy, but because Krishna became so happy, therefore we became happy. So first definition. Now the second part is priyata. Love must be priyata, and this priyata has three features. It's an attitude of benevolence towards the object. Towards the object, and object is italicized. The benevolence is not towards ourselves, but towards the object of our love. So many of you said this, right? Wishing our beloved well. Who said this, right? A few of you said this. So when you're the well-wisher of your lover, benevolence, compassion. Some of you said compassion. Number two, a dynamic will to desire which is favorable or dear to the object from its point of view. A dynamic will to desire which is favorable or dear to the object from its point of view. So you desire that which is pleasurable to the object of our love. And Rupa Goswami uses, Jiva Goswami uses this word dynamic because it's action, it's activity, it's, you're taking the initiative, very active. So what is favorable for Krishna from Krishna's point of view? That is what we desire. And when we desire what is favorable for Krishna from his point of view, then that is pure devotional service. When we do service for Krishna in the way that we want to serve him, which is the case most of the way that I do devotional service. Someone asks me, can you please clean the bathrooms of the temple? I cringe and I say, oh, okay, maybe I'll do it, maybe tomorrow, right? So it's service, but it's not so pleasurable for me. So I'm not so enthusiastic to do it for Krishna. But if someone says, can you sing some kirtan? I'm super enthusiastic. So both are bhakti, but pure devotion is when we're willing to do whatever Krishna wants us to do. Nishkam karma yoga. So that is a very, very nice point here, that we must do what is pleasurable to Krishna. Prabhupada said a very famous sentence. He said that don't try to see God, but act in a way that the Lord wants to see you. And so our desire is not to, go to the groves of Vrindavan and become a Babaji and see Krishna somewhere. No, we do what Krishna, through his pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada, has told us to do. And in this month is to distribute books, right? The book distribution marathon, especially. We serve Krishna in that way because that's what Krishna wanted to do from his point of view. He wants all of his children to come back to him. Or it's to chant our 16 rounds very nicely. I should rather say to chant our 16 rounds very, very nicely, because this is what Krishna wants us to do. So that is pure love. And the third one is a state of mind due to the experience that the efforts of love have actually resulted in the joy of the object. A state of mind due to the experience that the efforts of love have actually resulted in the joy of the object. Object meaning the person that we love. So the devotee is very keen to see that Krishna is pleased by this activity. That's the measure of our success. The measure of our success is not how many books we have distributed. The measure of our success is not how many rounds we have chanted. But the measure of success is that, is Krishna pleased by my book distribution, by my chanting, by my prasadam distribution, by my service to Krishna? Is Krishna and Guru pleased as a result of that? Otherwise, it is shama eva hi kevalam, right? The Bhagavatam says, and Hari Toshanam, seeing that if the Lord Hari is satisfied, that is actually the success. And so the ecstasy that the devotee feels, the happiness and the experience that the devotee feels in seeing that Krishna is happy, that is pure love. So how wonderful is Jiva Goswami's definition here. First he says it is sukha, it is non-different than true happiness. And then he says priyata, these three items, these three things should be present in that exchange, and then it is pure love, Krishna. So, and the difference between lust and love is that in love, in lust, the sukha, the happiness, is in the ashraya. It's in the person who's seeking the love, not in the vishaya. Vishaya means the object. So, therefore, happiness, love is the happiness one feels by seeing the happiness of the beloved. Once again, love is the happiness one feels by seeing the happiness of the beloved. And that is the prime example of that are the gopis of Vrindavan. They're always extremely happy. Even when Krishna left for 100 years, he left. He left them alone in separation in Vrindavan. They were crying in tears of separation, yet they were in the greatest ecstasy. Why? Because they knew that Krishna was happy. Krishna wanted it this way. So Krishna's happiness became their happiness. And that's why they're the greatest devotees. They were truly selfless. Their love was always selfless. Another example is Queen Kunti in the Srimad Bhagavatam. She is an exemplar of who the perfect devotee is. Who is a devotee who just sets the standard. In Srila Prabhupada, in his purport to 1817, he writes, Kunti is described herein as sati or chaste. Due to her unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna, her mind will now be expressed in the following prayers to Lord Krishna. A chaste devotee of the Lord does not look to others, namely any living being or demigod, even for deliverance from danger. That was all along the characteristic of the whole family of the Pandavas. They knew nothing except Krishna, and therefore the Lord was also always ready to help them in all respects and in all circumstances. Such a beautiful paragraph that Prabhupada has written. And this sentence in particular in the middle is so wonderful. A chaste devotee of the Lord does not look to others, namely any other living being or demigod, even for deliverance from danger. They only look to Krishna. And one of you had mentioned very nicely that love means 100% trust. Love means full surrender. A devotee of the Lord may call the police if there's a thief in the house. The devotee of the Lord, may call out, help me if they need help. But ultimately, in the depths of their heart, they know that only Krishna is their protector. Only Krishna can deliver them from all sorts of danger. And they only depend upon Krishna. They're not actually depending on anyone else. Therefore, if things go wrong, they actually know that this is Krishna's plan. Because they're only depending on Krishna, they know that Krishna allowed it this way. And therefore, they don't feel any sort of resentment, revenge, or anger towards anyone, because they're convinced of the fact that ultimately this other person is not the cause of my distress or my happiness, but it is only Krishna. It is only Krishna who can save me from any sort of danger. And the fact that Krishna has not saved me means that Krishna has a plan, and Krishna has allowed this. And this was the characteristic of the whole family of the Pandavas. They knew nothing except Krishna. Their life and soul was Krishna. When Draupadi was in great difficulty, they were trying to, inflict an insult upon her that was worse than death. She would not have been able to live literally after that. Who does she call out? Once she first, asked her husbands to protect her, the Bhishma and Dhritarashtra. But when all else fails, and it's clear, she goes, Hey Govinda. And she doesn't even try to defend herself. She calls out to Krishna and says, please protect me. Please protect me, my Lord. Because she had complete dependence upon the Lord. So we should see their example that this is unalloyed devotion. They knew nothing except for Krishna. And Queen Kunti in the Bhagavatam, she has this beautiful verse. Vai menanya vishaya matir madhu pate sakrit ratim udvahata dadha gevogham mudanvati. O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. So very key point here, that love, as many of you said, is unalloyed. She's saying, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. Unalloyed. There's no other distraction in it. There's no other focus. There's no breakage in it. There's no stoppage in it. There's a very nice metaphor that the acharyas give to us. They say that bhakti is tailadhara. Tailadhara means it flows like oil, not like water. So some of you have probably, poured a jug of water into something, and when you pour the water, it goes right, like just it's not smooth. But when you pour a bottle of oil into the pan, it's very smooth. There's no breakage in it. It just flows like the rivers to the ocean. So in the same way, pure devotion isn't many branched. It's not like, Krishna's there, but I have another backup plan, and Krishna's there, but I really enjoy watching CNN and watching my movies. Krishna's there, but I won't think of Krishna all the time. 2 hours is enough every day. That is bhakti, but that is not pure bhakti. Pure bhakti means without being diverted, which means 24 hours a day, everything. All our entire life is for Krishna. Our job is for Krishna. Our family is for Krishna. Our food is for Krishna. Our thoughts are for Krishna. Our plans are for Krishna. Our wealth is for Krishna. Our time is for Krishna. Every resource that the devotee has, they employ it in Krishna's service. And when you find someone like that, then you know you found a pure devotee of the Lord. Someone who is 100%, 100% focused on Krishna, nothing else but Krishna. So that is the unalloyed devotion, the pure devotion of the devotee, not diverted. Krishna, this is one of the first instructions in the second chapter of the Gita. Krishna tells Arjuna, Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kuru nandana bahushaka hinantasya buddhiyo vyavasayana. Those who are on the path of devotion, they are vyavasayatmika buddhi. Their aim is one. They're not thinking, let me be successful in my material life in this way or that way. Their aim is one, vyavasayatmika buddhi, not many branched, only for Krishna. Another wonderful example of this is Gajendra, and this is the last example, and then we'll have conversation and discussion. Gajendra, he's an elephant, and we love, Bhagavatam is so wonderful because it has so many stories. It has even animal stories, and the best animal stories. So Gajendra, he's this really awesome elephant, and in his previous life, he was king. Was a great king, I think King Indradumna, and he, becomes a little bit too central, and he makes the sage angry. Kind of the sage becomes angry with him, and so curses him to become an elephant. And as an elephant, Gajendra, for some time, forgets his spiritual nature, his spiritual identity. He becomes greatly involved in his elephant family, which you see there in the background, all of his baby elephants and his wife elephants and all these things. And then, as it is the case in this material world, a great calamity befalls Gajendra. A great calamity. And he gets attacked, and he's almost about to die. He gets attacked by an alligator or crocodile. I guess today's the day for crocodiles and alligators. I didn't realize we have two stories today on this. So, so he gets attacked by the crocodile. And when he's bathing in the river, this crocodile comes and catches his leg. I lived in Florida for 2 years. And so I had the good fortune of seeing many of them. Some of them only a few feet away from me. There was a crocodile in the pond behind our house. So every morning we would see it, floating. It's quite, you could say an uncomfortable situation to live in. You would agree, I think, if you have a crocodile in the back floating in the pond behind your house. So that place was actually very nice place in the material world, because every morning it reminded you, padam padam yad vipadam natesham, that in this material world there's danger at every step. And actually there's danger at every step, but the existence of the crocodile actually really brought home that point. We could actually experience it many times a day. So actually, just one funny thing, in the university that I was teaching there, Florida Gulf Coast University, once an alligator decided to join the students. And so this alligator somehow walked out of one of the ponds and went straight into the library, because the library doors, they have the, the electric, the thing that if you come in front, they open by themselves. So this alligator, he just, went in front of the door somehow, and the doors opened, and so he went inside of the library. But thank God, the alligators, they only thrive in very warm weather. And so the moment he got inside, all the students started screaming and got up from their chairs and jumped up. But the alligator, the moment he got inside, was hit by the AC, the cool air of the AC, the inside cool air. And the moment that air hit the body of the alligator went into hibernation and just on the spot kind of fell asleep. I wasn't there, and I heard this story from many people. It was a well-known incident on campus. And so, because the alligator was not in its natural habitat, so to say, it wasn't the place where it's strong, the alligator immediately, calmed down and, became a very friendly alligator. So, in this case, in the case of Gajendra, the alligator was in the water, and Gajendra was the animal of the land. And so because he was in the water, he was in his territory. The alligator was more powerful than Gajendra. Even though Gajendra was the king of the forest, the king of elephants, the alligator was winning and Gajendra was losing. So when Gajendra actually realizes that I'm a failure, this material world, I couldn't conquer it. This material world has overpowered me. At that point, Gajendra, he picks up a lotus flower from the river. At that point, Gajendra's whole spiritual life comes back to him. That moment just opens up all of the pious deeds that he did in his previous lives. He was such a saintly king, such a great devotee of the Lord. And like we said, that didn't go to waste. See, that never goes to waste. Even if you're an elephant, even if you become an elephant, it doesn't go to waste. And so Gajendra picks up that lotus flower and he begins to pray to the Lord. So it's in our moments of greatest calamity that we often surrender to Krishna. And we have to remember this, that this is part of the life of bhakti. A life of bhakti means unalloyed devotion to Krishna, and especially during times of difficulty, times when we feel that Krishna has let us down. During those times, we especially have to call out and pray to the Lord and surrender to him. So Gajendra at that point says these very beautiful prayers of full surrender. This is 8.320. Ekantino yasya na kanchanartham vanchanti evai bhagavat prapanna atyadbhutam taccharitam sumangalam gayanta ananda samudramagna tamaksharam brahma param paresham avyaktamadhyatmika yoga gamyam atindriyam sukshmamivati duram anantamadhyam paripurnamide. Unalloyed devotees, translation, this is the translation. Unalloyed devotees who have no desire other than to serve the Lord, worship him in full surrender, and always hear and chant about his activities, which are the most wonderful and auspicious. Thus they always merge in an ocean of transcendental bliss. Such devotees never ask the Lord for any benediction. I, however, am in danger. Thus I pray to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is eternally existing, who is invisible, who is the Lord of all great personalities such as Brahma, and who is available only by transcendental bhakti yoga. Being extremely subtle, he is beyond the reach of my senses and transcendental to all external realization. He is unlimited. He is the original cause, and he is completely full in everything. I offer my obeisances unto him. So such a wonderful verse this is that Gajendra is saying. He's saying, thus the devotees always merge in an ocean of transcendental bliss. Such devotees never ask the Lord for any benediction. So the question here is, he's saying that, but then he says, however, I am asking you for this because I'm in danger. So why is Gajendra asking the Lord for help to save his body when in fact a pure devotee doesn't want or need anything, has no selfish desire, and therefore doesn't ask Krishna for anything? So Srila Prabhupada in the purport to this verse explains, he says that how the devotee will only ask the Lord for help when everything fails and he's taking shelter of the Lord out of utter helplessness. So someone may say, well, but why is a devotee afraid to die? I mean, if Krishna wants him to die, then why should he not just die? Have life or death, it doesn't matter to a pure devotee of the Lord. He's happy in any situation. So why should he protect his life? So Rupa Goswami actually answers this question. And this Gajendra story brings actually very subtle points, very wonderful points, very deep points are taught to us through this seemingly very simple story. Rupa Goswami, in his definition of pure devotional service, explains this. He says, Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadinavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhakti rupam. Those of you taking Bhakti Shastri will learn this verse very nicely. This is the first verse of the Nectar of Devotion. And most of the chapters of the Nectar of Devotion are actually devoted to explaining this one verse. So in this verse, it says, Anya bilashita shunyam. Pure bhakti is Anya bilashita shunyam. It means all your other desires, material desires, are shunyam or zero. However, Rupa Goswami says, Anya bilashita shunyam. And the ta in that verse, Prabhupada explains, means that Rupa Goswami says the devotee does not have any desires other than service to the Lord, except possibly for some desires that do not come in the way of his devotional service to the Lord. Those desires, in some ways, are just part of the devotee's devotional service. They do not come in the way of his devotion to the Lord. So, very important point here. Gajendra is not, the pure devotee is not asking Krishna for a 3-car garage and a flat screen TV. Those things will be, maybe problems in our devotional service, obstacles in our devotional service. Gajendra is asking the Lord to save his life. And saving his life does not necessarily come in the way of his devotional service, because it is our very body that we use in Krishna service to serve him. It is our body that we engage in the Lord's service. So therefore, it's actually a very important tool in the Lord's service. It's one of the best resources that we have for the service of the Lord. That's our own body. And so therefore, the devotee, Rupa Goswami says, can ask the Lord to save him. And Rupa Goswami, in fact, gives this example. He says, if the devotee is drowning in the ocean and the devotee says, hey, Govinda, protect me, then that request to the Lord that, oh Lord, please protect me, is not a material desire. It's not necessarily a material desire. It's just a desire that is born out of the desire to serve Krishna. That Krishna, please protect me, because obviously I need to live to serve you. And I want to live to serve you. In the same way, we have, examples in Srila Prabhupada's life, where Srila Prabhupada, he would, ask the devotees, today you make hot puris for me. He was not so well, but he said, I want hot puris with eggplant. And they should be so hot that when you bring them, they should be continue to be puffed up. And Prabhupada with his own hand would make the hole and depuff them. So Prabhupada wanted puris on that day. So if he's a pure devotee of the Lord, why did he want puris? Isn't that a material desire? No, it is not. Because that desire does not come in the way of his devotional service to the Lord. Every devotee has a nature, a svadharma. Every devotee has a personality. Every devotee is a person. And a person is not a stone. So they will have these spiritual, you could say, feelings, desires. But they're so minor. The point is that if Prabhupada didn't get the puris, his devotional service would not have been affected to the least. And if he did get the puris, it also did not affect his devotional service in the least. So his devotional service was his life and soul. These are the expressions of his devotion. So this is the first point that we learned from Gajendra's life. The other thing, very deep lesson, is that in the case of Gajendra, when he calls out to the Lord in this beautiful prayer that we see that the Lord, after that, immediately comes, riding on his Garuda, and literally he's in a hurry. Garuda and the Lord are there within seconds, just like in the case of Draupadi. And when we pray to the Lord, then Krishna doesn't come. Gajendra prayed, Krishna came. When we pray, that Krishna doesn't come. Sometimes, at least, when I pray, he doesn't seem to come. So why is it that in the case of Gajendra, Krishna came, and in our case, he most of the time doesn't come? The reason is because in his prayer to the Lord, Gajendra is not asking the Lord simply to protect his body and his sense enjoyment and his happiness and his material enjoyment. In his prayer, when Gajendra is praying to the Lord, by this time, Gajendra has fought with the crocodile for 1,000 celestial years. By this time, Gajendra became, that struggle with the crocodile for 1,000 years made him completely materially impoverished. And by that time, he's done with material life. And then what is he saying? The last point here. By that time, he wants nothing more of this material world. His spiritual consciousness has completely arisen. And when he prays, he doesn't say, "Oh my Lord, save me and let me enjoy this material world." But he's saying, "I'm done with this material world. Krishna, please save me by taking me back home, back to Godhead." So his prayer is of a very deep quality, where, as Queen Kunti says, we can only reach the Lord when we're materially impoverished, when we're materially, we have no aspiration. Same idea here, that we can only reach the Lord. Krishna comes when we pray to him and we say, "I'm done with material life. I'm fully surrendered unto you. My life is for you. I'm fully surrendered unto you. I have no hope. I have no, you could say, no false ideas of this material world. I know there's no pleasure here. Please just take me back home, back to Godhead." And so that was Gajendra's prayer. He was praying to the Lord, "I've been through all these lifetimes. I've now been an elephant, trying to enjoy as an elephant. I've been fighting with this crocodile for 1,000 years. This material world is just useless. Please take me back home, back to Godhead." And at that point, Krishna immediately comes. So thank you very much for your very kind attention. I went a little over time, and now we can open.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. We'll just open up the floor for any questions in a minute or two. Before that, I quickly wanted to make a couple of announcements. So, as usual, like every Thursday, we'll have the story time for kids at 8:30 p.m. tomorrow. So please join in. Gopal Hari Prabhu also, just to let you know, we have the story time for kids every week. So if any of your congregation members would like to join, I can share those details with you and you can spread the word also. It's very nice. Tomorrow is also Ekadashi, and I don't know the fast breaking time on Friday, but so extra rounds, extra chanting, extra spiritual activities, and no gossip. That's the usual mantra. And this Sunday we have His Holiness Vasudev Swami speaking, and we all know, we've heard him. Many of us have heard him. His talks are wonderful. They're very spiritually enlightening, and also his laughter and smile is very infectious. So please join in. Ramchandra Prabhu just wrote back to me. The fast breaking the next day on Friday is between 7:10 a.m. and 10:16 a.m. So please make a note. And Prabhu, I just wanted to take a quick minute. I didn't want to do this at the beginning, but I want to introduce you. I didn't want to take the time initially. So I want to introduce you very quickly to the president of our center that opened, last year I was mentioning to you, Ramchandra Prabhu. He's on the call also. Prabhu, I don't know how to spotlight you, but if you're there, Gopal Hari Prabhu, maybe you can see him on the call. His camera is also on. Ramchandra Prabhu, are you? I see him on the call, but is he there?
Yes, Prabhu, I saw him, and I think he.
Okay.
Oh yes, yeah. Hare Krishna.
Were you calling me?
Yes, Prabhu. I meant to introduce you to Gopal Hari Prabhu.
I just got disconnected for a few seconds.
All right. I was I didn't know how to spotlight you and him both together, but so Ramchandra Prabhu is the center president. He's the president of our new center that opened last year, like I told you, the ISKCON of Bergen. And Prabhu has led many initiatives like this one, the Wednesday Sangha program, the story time that is happening tomorrow. So they're all those wonderful initiatives. Yes. So we'll just open up the floor now for questions. If you want to raise your hands in the chat bar, I can, you can go ahead with that, or ask, you send me the question and I can read it out to Prabhu. There was one question that I know Gail Mataji said that she had a question. So Gail Mataji, if you want to start, you could go ahead, please. And then in the meantime, like I said, if you want to raise your hand, you can go that way also.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for a fascinating class. Mike, I have actually two questions. One is, since we just finished talking about Gajendra, I should ask that one first. He became materially exhausted, and as a result, he wanted nothing other than Krishna's devotional service. So my question is, how did he go from being materially exhausted to directly wanting exclusively Krishna's service? Because he could have just simply wanted to, let's say some impersonal liberation, just to be done with this world, but not necessarily want Krishna's service, So how did he was it due to his past devotional service that he made that direct jump, or what?
Yes, actually, yes, your final point was actually correct. That even like in the case of Ajamil, Srila Prabhupada explains, and in the case of Gajendra, that they had performed sincere devotional service in the past. In the case of Ajamil in his youth, in the case of Gajendra in his previous life. And they were actually very good devotees. They're very great devotees of the Lord. And so, because they had forgotten it due to a fall down, due to a mistake, because they had forgotten it, when they came back in touch with Krishna, or when the situation came, then they revived their Krishna consciousness. Immediately that Krishna consciousness came back to him. So Gajendra, even more than Ajanmo, Gajendra was a very great devotee of the Lord. And for that reason, he made a mistake. He was an elephant for some time. But once he had gone through the suffering to realize, to remove the last vestiges of material attachment, the desire for material power, being the big elephant in the forest, like the big king. Similar to Bharat Maharaj also. Bharat Maharaj also becomes a deer. He had sort of that last vestige of material attachment, which is very hard to get rid of. And once they got through that, once they broke it, then their whole spiritual life, it was just revived. And when it was revived, then that devotion was very pure and very strong. So bhakti never goes in vain. The lesson for us is that we have to perform devotional service very intensely, tivrena bhakti yogena. And even if there's a fall down for some time, when we come back to it, that intensity, that pure devotion comes right back.
Mm-hmm.
So yes.
Yeah. So I guess if there was material exhaustion, but there had not been any taste for devotional service, then the result would have been a desire for just plain old liberation, right? I mean, isn't that?
Yes. Yes. If there's material exhaustion without the devotion, you're actually absolutely correct. With material exhaustion without devotion, Srila Prabhupada says, leads to impersonalism or Buddhism. Because then you want to make this material world nothing, you want to deny the material world, or you want to merge and lose your individuality because relationships and material life has given you so much pain. You want to remove that without the positive alternative of spiritual life.
Mm-hmm.
So you're absolutely correct. Without the bhakti, that would lead to impersonalism and liberation in the sense of impersonal liberation. But other forms of liberation, like sarupya and salokya, those are also, although not maybe on that level of pure bhakti, but they're still devotional service.
Yes, thank you. And just one other thing is a good segue, this impersonalism, into this other question I had. This concept of unconditional love. If you love somebody, let's say even in this material world, if all you care about is the person's happiness, without a trace of selfish desire, right? There's no condition at all, not even about the person's qualities, which, I've heard one Prabhu give a lecture and say that, the gopis, their love is not even dependent on on Krishna's qualities. It's like, like the last verse of the Shikshastakam, right? Regardless of how they're treated by Krishna, they will love him. So my question is, if the love is unconditional to this extent, then what's to keep a person from loving any Tom, Dick, or Harry? It seems like it becomes impersonal then. It doesn't matter who you love because there's no condition for the love. So how to understand this?
Very wonderful point. And I feel this is why Jiva Goswami gives this wonderful definition of love, because this point also didn't make sense to me. And this I think actually directly refers to the point that you're raising here, that love, pure love, has to be that love which causes the greatest happiness, the greatest ecstasy in our heart. And the gopis know, and we know, and any devotee practicing knows, that I get that love because of small glimmers of this happiness that we've experienced. I get that love and happiness only in my relationship with Krishna and his pure devotees, or through pure bhakti to Krishna. So yes, they're not worshiping Krishna because he's such a handsome, beautiful young boy, because they don't have material lust like that. But at the same time, they're worshiping Krishna because Krishna is the source of all pleasure, of all bliss. Krishna is the source of all beauty, all strength, all knowledge, all wisdom. Krishna is the summum bonum of all happiness. So in that sense, they're not worshiping, their worship of Krishna is not conditional on his qualities, in the sense that this is not mundane love. But it is, you could say, non-different. Their love is non-different from the experience, the sukha, that Jiva Goswami said, the unlimited happiness that comes from serving Krishna. Because that's how you identify what that bhakti is. That's a very marker of bhakti, that it brings unlimited happiness. So that, I think, hopefully answers your point. It's true and it's also not true. It's not dependent on any material qualities, but Krishna's spiritual qualities are innate to him, and they are part of the process of bhakti. They are very much intertwined with the experience and process of bhakti.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm not, I can't say that I'm like completely getting it, because you're saying that, Krishna's beauty is different from that of this world, because his beauty is complete. All of his opulences are complete. And so when the gopis love those qualities, or when the gopis love Krishna, who has these qualities inherently, yeah, I'm not sure.
Yes. So actually, I made it complicated.
Why it's not conditional? Why it's not conditional still?
It's not conditional because they're non-different. So one is not loving Krishna for the happiness. Rather, the love itself is also unlimited happiness, which is the nature of the soul. So why is it not conditional? Because like a mother sacrifices everything for her child, but in that sacrifice itself is her highest happiness, her greatest happiness. And so it's not for another purpose, but the very nature of that love is happiness. So, and it's the greatest happiness. It's what is, she wouldn't do anything else. And that love is closest to spiritual love, we say, right? So we can use that as an analogy. To some degree, this is, you could say, beyond our conception, but this is just a way to understand it that Jiva Goswami is giving. And ultimately, we have to experience it to fully understand it. So that point, I fully agree.
Yeah, I think that's my position right now. I have to, I think I have to actually experience it maybe to understand. But thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, I have a question.
Maybe Asta can go first. I think Asta had a question. She raised her hand first.
Yes, I had a question.
Okay,
can I go ahead?
You go ahead.
In the same connection of unconditional love of Krishna, is it in conflicting with the material world love of your family and wife, and they may be competing for the same love and may not be able to devote the full attention for Krishna? I am always facing that issue every time. Can you give me some guidance?
That's a very nice question, Prabhu. See, loving Krishna means loving our family members. They're one. There's no conflict there. That's why on the initial initial steps of bhakti, we have our material life and we have our spiritual life. We have material life and we have spiritual life. And so we say, okay, if I want to be more spiritual, I have to spend more time in spiritual things. But when we advance spiritually, we see that there's no material life and spiritual life. It's all spiritual life. So our family members, we have to see them in connection with Krishna. We have to love them because they're part and parcel of Krishna, and Krishna has given them to be part of our responsibility to take care of, and but we take care of them as devotees, as servants of the Lord. So Prabhupada says, when you see the sun, that you see everything around also. So in the same way, when we love Krishna, we will automatically love our family members. If we truly love our family members, that means we also love Krishna. Because you cannot see an object without seeing the sun. And you cannot see the sun without seeing the objects around you. So loving Krishna means that we will do what is best. We will actually truly love our family members. Because we will relate with them and we will encourage them to do what is for their highest benefit. And therefore we will be expressing real affection, real love to them, not some just artificial, superficial love. Yes. Nice question. Thank you.
Hare Krishna,
Asta, you want to
Guruji.
go?
Yes, Guruji. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the class, Guruji. I had a question. So regarding the desire concept of like desires from Krishna. So we to an extent, like I personally, there's honestly like no limit to like the material desires that we do ask for. Like me speaking for myself, but like what about like spiritual desires? Like when, you know, if we all want like to improve the quality of our japa, or like, you know, just get like qualitatively improve our bhakti in, you know, overall. So like what if, you know, if someone like genuinely asks for that, and like like sometimes like maybe like I'm doing something wrong on my end and not asking with the right mood, but like is there a reason as to why this is happening, or like I'm not feeling that like change in a sense?
So I missed the second part. You said, so what about spiritual desires? And then what did you say after that in terms of spiritual desires?
Like, well, when we ask for like Krishna, that like, you know, please, you know, like I want to qualitatively improve my japa, or improve the quality of my bhakti. So is that like one, I mean, is that like what I mean, like what mood should we ask that with? And like if, yeah, kind of what mood should we ask that with?
Very nice. My understanding is that we should ask that in the mood of wanting to please Krishna. So the idea is that the devotee knows that this will please Krishna. So let's say building a temple. Take that example. Building a temple will please Krishna because the spiritual master may have instructed the devotee, build a temple here. And so the devotee may go to the Lord and say, "Oh Lord, please give me wealth. Dhanam dehi. Please inspire others to donate and give wealth so that I can build a temple for you." Why? Because you know that pleases Krishna. So you're asking him for help to fulfill Krishna's desire. And Prabhupada gives the example, like when we go to the Ganges, to worship the Ganges, we take water from the Ganges to offer to the Ganges, right? That's the way how they worship Ganga. They take Ganga from the water from the Ganga itself, and they offer it to the Ganga. You say, well, what's this? I mean, the Ganga already has that water, and you're offering it back to her. So the devotee knows that everything already belongs to Krishna, but I want to take Krishna's energy. I want to take whatever already belongs to him and give it back to him, because this pleases him. Just like the child takes the wealth of his parents, buys a gift for the parents, and pleases them by buying something from the parents' own wealth. So in the same way, we know that Krishna is pleased when we chant our rounds very nicely. Krishna is pleased when we chant his holy name very purely. So the devotee is asking Krishna, please help me. This is a spiritual desire that is completely okay with bhakti. The devotee is asking Krishna, please help me chant your holy name purely, because this gives you most pleasure. This gives you most happiness. So please allow me to be able to sing your Mahamantra very nicely, because we know that the gopis may have asked this from Krishna, that they want some skill to serve the Lord, because they know that that will please the Lord if they engage that skill in his service. So then it's a spiritual desire. But if, for example, if we ask Krishna, please make me a rock star so I can open a Krishna conscious band, then that may not be a purely spiritual desire. Why? Because even though we want to serve Krishna, we want to open a band that's Krishna conscious for Krishna, that band may not be Krishna's desire. Krishna may actually want us to serve him by being a writer, or a musician, but a different type of musician, not a rock musician. So there it becomes Sakam Karma Yoga, where we're performing devotional service to Krishna, but our desires are mixed in it. And that's still okay. That's like we're trying to negotiate here, okay? I want to be a rock star, and Krishna, you want me to serve you, so I'll be a Krishna conscious rock star. So it's a Sakam Karma Yoga. It's mixed devotional service. And by doing mixed devotional service, we can gradually come to pure devotional service. So those desires are not the best, but they're still okay. We try to avoid them, but if we cannot, at least we engage them in Krishna service and then purify them.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you. You're a smart girl.
Ramchandra Prabhu, you want to go ahead?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Sorry, I don't see that option to raise the hand. For some reason, it's not showing up for me. But very, very happy to have you speak to all of us today. The last time I met you was it's probably 10 plus years ago in DC, in Potomac Temple, when your brother was doing a seminar, and you were there at that time. It's been a long time. Yeah, you were in the Brahmachari ashram at that time. So
it's very nice to meet you again, Prabhu.
Yeah. My question was, you gave an example that I may have to do. I may have been asked to clean the restroom, for example, but maybe tomorrow. But I tell me to sing, and I'll do that. But what is favorable to Krishna is what we should really do. So the question comes up that how do I know what's favorable to Krishna?
Yes, a very relevant point, Prabhu, that you're making. So many times, Krishna has given us each a nature, right? So this is why he has Varna Ashram. We all have a nature, and many times, due to our nature, we're attracted to certain services and less attracted to other services. And many times the services that are according to our own nature are also what Krishna wants us to do. Just like in the case of Arjuna. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, he's a warrior. In some sense, he likes to do that. And Krishna also wants him to do that. He's saying, you are a warrior, you're good at that, that's your nature, so you fight for me. And so because we like to do something, it doesn't necessarily mean that Krishna doesn't want us to do that. It may be that Krishna wants us to do that devotional service that we like to do. In fact, a lot of the times that's the case. However, if Krishna, like in the case of Arjuna is a warrior, he likes to do that, he likes to fight. But if Krishna wants him to go to the forest and spend 13 years in the forest, like a Brahmana, then Arjuna is surrendered to his will and he's willing to do that also. So for me, this is the way I understand it, and this is the point, that a devotee needs to act according to his nature, right? Some devotees are more intellectual, others are more managerial, others are more business-minded, and they will end up acting according to their nature. And that's what normally they'll do. A person should be engaged in the service that is natural to them. However, if the call comes from a higher authority, if the call comes from the sadhus, Vaishnavas, if the call comes from the spiritual master, that do this because this is needed to spread the Sankirtan movement, then pure devotional service means that the devotee will stand up and will do it. Right? He'll rise up to the occasion and he'll do it. So some people, for example, going back to this example, find cleaning to be very natural, a natural part of their service. Some people find cooking to be natural, and so they'll be engaged in cooking service or cleaning service or kirtan service or speaking service. But the speaker should not be afraid of cleaning if it's needed, and should do it also just for to remind oneself that one is a humble servant of the Lord. Should do menial services, and the cleaner or the person who likes cleaning should be ready to give a class and speak for Krishna if that's necessary and it's needed for the occasion. Even though they may feel very embarrassed or very shy to do so, for Krishna they can speak up and they can give a lecture. So that is how we can understand what the will of the Lord is. The will of the Lord comes through the will, for us generally, through the will of the devotees, or the devotee that we look up to. In the case of Arjuna, it came directly through Krishna because Krishna was present. In our case, it may come through the spiritual master, it may come through the senior devotees, it may come through the community of devotees, and it may also come through our own heart. We may understand the temple needs help, or this devotee needs help. I need to do this. And so Krishna may guide us.
Thank you very much. Very nicely explained.
Thank you.
Sanket Prabhu, if you want to go ahead.
Yes, sure. So Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I mean, it's a very nice lecture class, and heard about a lot of different definition of love here, like surrender, eternal, sacrifice, unconditional, all those things. But I have heard one additional definition of love. I mean, I have read or heard somewhere that it's like a water flow, and it's like love has to be flow between two banks of the river. Like one side is the trupti or trusha, and other side is the prapti or pyas. So it's kind of a analogy between Radha and Krishna's love, and they never met. I mean, and if they met, then it stops the flow. But in your lecture, you said it's like a pouring oil, and it's like it has to have a smooth flow. So my question here is that as a devotee, we have to be always have a pyas, right? I mean, to have a spiritual desire, but that desire should not be fulfilled. Otherwise, the love will stop there. I mean, so is that the right understanding?
It's close. Basically, there's two things. One is separation from the Lord, which you're saying is pyas, separation from the Lord. And the other thing which is separate from that is bhakti. So is devotion. So the gopis were separated from Krishna. Right? They love and separation, viraha bhakti. They're separated from Krishna. And so with Krishna, there was union and separation, union and separation. Their proximity was changed, but their love remained the same. And in fact, like you're saying, in separation, it grew even stronger. This is why love in separation is even higher, because in separation, it grows stronger. It becomes even deeper. So bhakti never changed. If bhakti changed, that would mean that at one point they were a bhakta, and at another point they were not a bhakta. Their bhakti remained the same, and that's why they were such great devotees. It was constant, regardless of the circumstance. Krishna was there; they were his devotees. Krishna wasn't there; they were also his devotees. That's why they were such great devotees, because they're 100% loyal to the Lord. But yes, the proximity, you could say, changed. There is separation and union, but bhakti remained the same.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Very nice point, actually.
Anyone else for a question?
Oh, yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada had mentioned once that a devotee should be expert. So, since you mentioned about the services, like devotees can't be perfect, right? So, like expert in one or the other field. So, what is Prabhupada actually tries to tell all of us? Like, can you please elaborate?
It's hard to imagine how it's the case, but pure devotees of the Lord, they're expert in whatever service they do to Krishna. And how is that possible? It's because Krishna personally guides them from within the heart. It's like Srila Prabhupada, you see in every situation, he was expert. When he was managing, he was expert. When he was translating books, he was expert. When he was chastising devotees, he was expert. His chastisement always made them more encouraged. They would walk away more encouraged. When he was lecturing, then his lectures were expert. When he was singing, he was expert. For those of us who are, you could say, normal devotees, we are still, we have our varna. We have our particular nature. So we may be expert in management, but we may not be so expert in giving intellectual talks, or we may be expert in reading books and being an intellectual, but not so expert in management. We don't know how to manage people and things, but we can read a book very nicely. So one devotee cannot do the service of the other so expertly because they have different natures, and those natures are still there because the inspiration is not directly coming from the super soul. It's not directly coming from Krishna. It's coming from us. And so what we can do well for Krishna, we try to do it expertly for Krishna. We try to be expert in one thing because we know we can try our best and do that well for Krishna. And one very senior devotee told me that Krishna actually becomes very attracted by our devotional service when we do something very expertly for him. So we do one thing, but we do it so well that it's just like, all the devotees, everyone says, this person did this service so well. And that attracts Krishna. And you see advanced devotees, they have this quality. Like when they get a service or they do a service, then they won't do it halfway. They have to do it really well. And they're almost like perfectionists. Why? Because that intense desire to please Krishna is there. So yes, we can be expert in one or two things, but not everything.
Okay, but in a case if one is not a pure devotee, in that case there may not be a false pride coming that I am doing this expertly or to my fullest capacity and.
No, because we are trying to act out of love. Whatever we do, we try to do it nicely for Krishna. So we still feel that it is incompetent. You see, because only Radharani can serve Krishna perfectly or expertly. Just like if our service is dressing the deities. And many devotees, they do it for years after year and they get so expert at it. So they're doing it to the best of their ability because they love Krishna so much. But at the same time, they feel completely disqualified. They feel completely incompetent. Because in comparison to the way Mother Yashoda dresses Krishna, what am I doing? Krishna is, he just took me because I was available. And so Krishna engaged me in that service. So that pride would be a mistake on our part because we still feel we're incompetent.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Anyone else has a question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I had a question.
Sure.
Prabhuji, wonderful class. Thank you for the wonderful words. It truly was an inspiration. Prabhuji, so my question was regarding when you talked about everyone, like according to Krishna, everyone is born to do a certain task, right? Like according to what they're like they're born to, like a Kshatriya is born to fight, a Brahmana is born to teach, to disperse the knowledge, right? So in that case, if we were to go against, like against Krishna's will, or unknowingly go against Krishna's will, would that cause any way like a dramatic change, like shift in our spiritual life? Would it affect us in any way, like dramatically, or would it still go in a certain somewhat path? That was my question, Rudy.
Okay, good point. Good question. So Krishna says in the Gita, he says that one who is fully Krishna conscious, and the key word here is fully, for that person there's no duty. But that person still performs their duty, still may perform their duty just to set an example for others. So one way to read that is that once we're fully Krishna conscious, we don't really have our duties in relation to our varna, like a Kshatriya, Brahmana, Vaishya, Shudra. We really don't have those left because we're just acting to please Krishna. Our only duty, our only desire is to love and serve Krishna. And so we do whatever Krishna wants us to do, and whatever is best, whatever is the best way to serve Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada, for example, we don't know if he was a Brahmana, a Vaishya, a Kshatriya, or Shudra. He did all of those things, as we discussed, very perfectly, because he was his Varna was Vaishnava Varna, as they say. He was just a devotee of the Lord. He was through and through. His only nature was to serve the Lord. So the answer to your question is it depends on our level of advancement. At the same time, we cannot imitate a fully Krishna conscious person, because to be a fully Krishna conscious person is not ordinary. It's not easy. It's actually very rare. So until we come to that point, we need to recognize what is my nature, and we act according to our nature for the service of Krishna, for the pleasure of Krishna. So I know actually one devotee, he's very much a warrior. He's a fighter. And since his childhood, he was always like, very strong, and he would enjoy with obviously toys, but sword fights and just like this. And so he did his major, he did his degree, but then after that he joined the military. He joined the Marines, and he's a devotee now in the Marines. And so many people tried to stop him, but it was just who he was. But he's still a very good devotee, and he's preaching as a soldier and all these things. So, I mean, not to say that anyone should become a soldier. I don't recommend it, given the way the political situation is, but we just recognize what our nature is. If we're a Kshatriya also means administration. It also means, leading a group. So we should choose services that go along with our nature. And our nature can be, we can recognize it ourselves, or other devotees can help us recognize what our nature is. But the idea is that we try to figure out what's the best way to use it in Krishna service. Yes.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. That was a wonderful answer. I had this question for a while, actually, and you answered it so beautifully. So thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Very nice. The youth in your community are very bright and very intelligent. And you all have such an enthusiasm for Krishna Katha. At 10:20 at night, you're still going strong. It's amazing.
Our Q&A session goes longer than the talk itself.
I see.
We take advantage of the virtual calls because whoever wants to log off can easily log off. They don't have to wait to clean up the temple or, and clean up and things like that. So as long as the speaker is okay to stay.
Well, luckily, I'm an hour before you, so for me, it's only 9:20. So
Any other questions? So, if not, thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much for giving us your valuable time. And we hope to have you again soon for another class. And so, if everyone can unmute themselves and thank Prabhu with a loud Hari
thank you,
Bol.
Prabhu.
Hari Bol.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hari Bol.
Gopal.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you for your wonderful association.
Next time, whenever COVID settles down, and if you're in the East Coast, do let us know. Whenever you're on the East Coast after COVID, please let us know. We'd love to host you in person.
Thank you. It's